John, we've been doing a little bit of a relaxed Friday. Well, not relaxed, but just pushing it back a little bit. People who have been waiting since 7 p.m. to hear about you, and you're going to crack this cocaine mystery at the doing WhiteHouse. How are you tonight, John?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Jason. You look good. You look, like
Thank
a
you.
big smile. Don't smile too much for too long, or people are going to wonder when did you last visit the White House? But yeah, this is a great story. It's been in the news, I guess, since the Fourth of July, right? Fourth of July weekend, and I guess Dan Bongino used to be on television, right? He used to have a contract with Fox. I guess they let
Yeah.
him go, but he's a former Secret Service guy. Kind of curious what his take is on this. I guess I'll have to search him out on Rumble or something. Shouldn't be too hard to find him. But somebody had cocaine in the White House, and it seems like this is a bit of a problem. When we go to our patron exclusive portion of what we do, we're going to get into somebody else. So this is a little bit of a little bit of a head fake. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened in the White House. But as soon as I heard cocaine in the White House, that's not the first guy who flashes to mind for me. Like Hunter Biden's not top of mind for me. He's a mess.
Really?
He's a disaster. He's a meaning the 5-6 years of research I've been doing wasn't
Uh-huh.
really about Hunter Biden. I spent 5 minutes on Meta Biota, right? So, but he hasn't been the subject of my work. But when I hear cocaine,
Mm.
there's somebody in particular who jumps out at me. Now, this could just completely be my bias, and this guy may never have seen cocaine in his life. But to me, I don't know. The audience will be the judge. And so I wanted to talk about my bias. And, again, who brought the cocaine to the West Wing of the White House next to the Situation Room? Gee whiz, who knows?
It's kind of a
I
big
don't know.
deal, isn't it? I mean, let me try and summarize what you're getting at here, because I've got some insight into what we're going to talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's so much of a head fake as it's going to be a discussion that's going to delve into aspects of this subject that I don't think anybody else has been talking about. Now, let me just take you through this thumbnail for a moment, because when I
Mm-hmm.
create a thumbnail, there's quite a lot to it usually. And of course, I do personally think it was Hunter Biden who had it. You would have to be a maniac to attempt to bring cocaine into the White House. And they're now talking about how the Situation Room is under construction. I don't think they just let any random bozo with a construction outfit into the White House. I'm sure anybody going in there and having access to these rooms, to the interiors of the walls, to break things and construct things, you're going to be heavily drug tested and scanned and monitored. And you'd have to be immediately presuming you're going to go to jail if you even, I mean, why not do all the coke before you get to the White House? But whatever. The only logical person would be Hunter Biden. But what we want to talk about is just sort of the illicit history of cocaine showing up in places where you might not expect cocaine to be,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
tell us what we're talking about with that.
Well, so it sort of begs the question, is this the first time that cocaine has breached the threshold of the White House? Would this be the first time? I
I don't think so.
highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. And so we're going to look back a little bit to the Obama presidency and who some of the visitors were back then. And potentially, might there have been cocaine in the White House earlier? I don't know, but we're going to explore that.
Well, the other thing is we've got Jacob joining us saying, what evidence do we have that Hunter Biden goes into the West Wing? So listen, I am very big on definitely presuming somebody is innocent until they're proven guilty, but we don't even know that this cocaine was found in the West Wing. The evidence that we have is from a babbling, stumbling collection of liars who say, oh, well, it was in the library. Oh, no, it was in one of these cubbies that the public can access. Oh, no, it was down by the Situation Room that's being worked on. I just don't think any person, I mean, it's difficult for me to put myself into the mind of a cocaine user because obviously serious drugs like that, I think, have a damaging effect on your judgment. So perhaps a cocaine user would attempt to bring it into the White House, but I think most people who are using illicit drugs are very sensitive to getting caught. With one exception, Hunter Biden. He doesn't seem to care. He's smoking crack going 200 or 172 miles an hour and all that. But I also want to talk about, and you and I were discussing this, we're going to, can I let the cat out of the bag and say we're going to talk about a Saudi connection here? And I want to talk about the Boeing 727. That's what I've got pictured here. And the famous air stairs, the Cooper vane, the rear opening door that turns this thing into an airdrop machine that the CIA has used to place equipment and personnel into remote locations in Vietnam. You've discovered, tell us what you discovered about this 727 and the Saudis.
Well, all right. Well, we're kind of jumping ahead when we start talking about the 727s a little bit. Okay. But
well, that's going to be on the sponsor. We want to let people know. I'll shut up now.
So there's some
but
fascinating
we'll dig into
stuff.
that on the sponsor exclusive
You found
segment.
some great stuff that's amazing. But last week, in last week's show, we were talking about is Elon Musk compromised because of some of the weird behaviors on Twitter. He was showing interest in certain topics and ignoring the work and stuff like that. And somebody mentioned to me after watching the show, said, I had no idea that Al-Walid bin Talal was Elon Musk's partner in Twitter.
It's a very big
and
deal.
that he was kind of a part of this whole thing.
Right.
And it's like, well, wait a second. So the whole Twitter world and the Twitter thing is like a whole top of the news type of story. Mm-hmm. And Al-Walid bin Talal is, yes, part of that. And he is the guy that I have fingered. Not literally. Yeah. Not literally, but I fingered him.
That would be stinky.
Metaphorically, and said, it appears from the evidence that I've compiled that he and Jamal Khashoggi, Maiteb bin Abdullah, and Mohammed bin Nayef, and of course Mansour bin Mukran, planned the Las Vegas shooting. And based on the limited amount of research that I did into the September 11th attacks, I believe that it was Al-Walid bin Talal behind that, not Osama bin Laden. I think Osama bin Laden was surprised when he heard and said, really, which brothers did this? I think it was Al-Walid bin Talal. And this is why the 28 pages are so redacted, because it's Bandar, right? Bandar bin Sultan, right? Bandar bin, and Al-Walid bin Talal. Right. I mean, these are the biggest names in Saudi Arabia at the time, 22 years ago. Well, it's sort of like this is the same guy. If this guy is in fact the guy who is so heavily redacted in the 28 pages is Al-Walid bin Talal, and the evidence from the Las Vegas shooting indicates that he was kind of the guy behind it, and then the night of the long sword with MBS, he gets arrested. Supposedly, he's hung upside down by Blackwater. Now, when we go with our patrons, here's what we're going to look at. We have footage of Al-Walid bin Talal 10 days before he's arrested and 2 weeks after the Vegas shooting. And I want you guys to kind of wrap your head around this for a second. Al-Walid bin Talal, at the time, is the single biggest shareholder in Twitter. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And when Elon's got to do the deal, this guy as the number one shareholder is the guy that can make happy. Now, you've pointed out at first it was get the hell out of here. We don't want your money. We're not interested in you buying the company.
Poison
get out
pill.
of here. We're going to do a poison pill. We do a poison pill. The poison pill's in place. And next thing you know, they're like, and now we're going to sue you to buy us for the amount that you said you thought you might want to buy us for. We're going to sue you and force you to do it. And they did. And it ended up that he buys the company. But Al-Walid bin Talal is still part of the company. He was part of the deal. He didn't sell out all of his equity.
Well, not just that. He was very vocal during this period. You know, he came and said he rejects the deal. Let me get this tweet, because Al Waleed Twitter reject Musk deal, because he said that it is, yeah, here it is. He's saying that it is nowhere near the inherent value. Let's see if this has his actual tweet, because the words were quite interesting. I don't believe that the proposed offer by Elon Musk, $54.20 per share, comes close to the intrinsic value of Twitter, given its growth prospects. See, I don't think he's talking about growth and value of the stock. I think he's saying that Twitter has value as a tool that goes beyond the per share price. This is what I say. I'm reading between the lines here. This is my speculation. But I think that Twitter...
And both are true. Both are true.
...has always been a weapon.
You're right. You're right. And you'd expect... Look, if you're the biggest owner of an asset and somebody comes along and says, I want to buy the asset, and you say, look, you know, yeah, everybody says this thing is worth this. Come on. Everybody knows it's worth that. Come on. Come on. Right? I mean, you're basically trying to get the guy to pay more money for it. And that's, you know, I understand that. But it was the, no, you can't, okay, we're going to do poison pill, and now you have to thing that was just very bizarre. But again, we're talking about the strangest bedfellow possible. The strangest, like, remember when I freaked out when we had Austin Steinbart showed up on a conference call, and I said, this is the lowest credibility person on earth to tell the Las Vegas shooting story. How does this guy end up on the thing, right? This is Mr. Low Credibility number one in America. Well, Al Waleed bin Talal, in my estimation, is Mr. Evil. I mean, if this is the guy who funded and helped organize and plan and was putting in all the puts and the calls on September 11th, and this is why he was able to come to the rescue of Citigroup when the stock was, what, at $2 a share, $5 a share?
That's not when that happened. The Citigroup bailout happened... See, this starts to get into what I was looking at earlier today, because we have. All right,
I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, because we have so much evidence.
I understand,
here that
but let me just address what you just said, because the Citigroup buy-in is important. I was looking at all this 727 stuff, and we know that the Trump shuttle had a fleet of 21 727s, and they were taken over by Citigroup only months after Al Waleed bought into Citigroup. So it's interesting. He has all these Trump assets, the Plaza Hotel, the yacht that used to be owned by Adnan
make sure people understand this.
Why is he buying all these used? This is what I want to lay out. Al Waleed bin Talal.
Let's not assume people know this, though. That's what I'm saying.
Just stop talking for a second, because people get pissed when we talk over each other, and I try to not do it, and you never try to not do it. So let me just get this out. The issue is, Trump buys the yacht from Adnan Khashoggi. Al Waleed buys that. Why would Al Waleed want a thrice-owned yacht rather than a brand new one? I think there's something very important about that yacht. Also, when Citigroup takes over the Trump shuttle, they're buying 21 727s at 10 cents on the dollar, and will, in the sponsor exclusive segment, get into what we've found today that I believe might be one of those 727s. I'm done.
Okay, so to me, the strange thing, it's like Elon Musk was forced into this business relationship with Al Waleed bin Talal. Al Waleed bin Talal hates me probably more than any other American, as far as
probably Trump. He hates Trump.
He hates Trump, and we saw a bevy of tweets from him saying you'll never win.
Right.
You should drop out of the presidency. He said, I bailed you out not twice but 3 times, one of which was when he bought the boat. And so this is the fascinating thing with the boat. Trump buys the boat from Adnan Khashoggi, not Jamal, Adnan. Buys the boat, renames it Trump Princess, And then Trump sells the boat to Al-Walid bin Talal. And the plaza, what didn't Trump at one point own the plaza, and he
Yes.
bought the plaza from
I don't
Trump?
know if he
So
sold it directly. We need to look into these transactions because
these
I
guys
don't
have
think it
been
was him selling it. I think it was Al-Walid taking these assets by these,
they
buying
yeah
into Citigroup and stuff. He had loans with Citigroup.
yeah
And so
yeah
the
these
thing
guys
that's
have
interesting
history.
is, you see, in this article that's talking about how he became a billionaire, just listen to this. At the end of
Mhm.
1990, Prince Al-Walid quietly bought 4.9% of Citicorp's existing common shares for $207 million. This is the same thing Elon Musk did with Twitter. Once the management noticed him and approached him for further investment, he played his cards shrewdly. In February 1991, he bought new preferred shares amounting to $590 million, amounting to further 10% of Citicorp. And the thing that is interesting is this was just before Citicorp, basically, Trump shuttle went bankrupt. Citicorp seized the assets.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, let's kind of lay the groundwork on why Al-Walid, and why do I think that his sheen is really like fool's gold. So let's take a look at that folder that I sent you.
I
And
got
let's
it.
take a look at some of these JPEG images and these PNG images. We're going to save the MPEG videos from when we go to with the patrons. And we're going to look at different stages. We're going to look at, him super confident, and he's with Maria Bartiromo, and he's super energized. And it's like, wow, his hair's on fire. And then you're going to see him 2 weeks. And man, this is so poignant. You have to understand, from his perspective, they planned this Vegas shooting thing. Him, Jamal Khashoggi, Maite bin Abdullah, Mohammed bin Nayef. They're trying to kill MBS in Vegas. It fails. It
Yeah.
fails. Okay.
Mhm.
So these guys get a phone call at some point that night. Boss, we don't have good news. We don't have good news. And he goes, how many guys got killed? Nobody. Nobody got killed. We got out of there, but we didn't get him. It's like, what do you mean you didn't get him? What do you mean you didn't get him? So now you've got to realize, if you're Al-Walid bin Talal and Maite bin Abdullah and Mohammed bin Nayef, you guys are like, got that dead man walking kind of feeling that we just tried to kill the crown prince and it didn't work. And he knows that the crown prince knows it wasn't Stephen Paddock. This crown prince knows that's not what happened, right? Because there were guys at the door of his suite. The shooters go upstairs and charge in there. So now the fact that it doesn't work and that he's still alive, he knows who wants him dead. So we're going to watch an interview with Al-Walid bin Talal that was done like October 23rd. So 3 weeks after the Vegas shooting, but just like 10 or 12 days before the night of the long sword, and he's arrested. And then we're going to watch an interview that he does with Bloomberg, where he says, I need to clear my name, and they said I was hung upside down, and they said that I was tortured, and I wasn't tortured, and da, 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 da. So it's very important to him to save face, and we're going to get a chance to hear this, and this is all from his palace in Riyadh. He's got this huge palace that kind of looks like a cocaine crystal thing. It's sort of, it's got this kind of cocaine-y vibe to it, and it's sort of like, I could be wrong. I could totally
Now,
be wrong. I just get
John,
this cocaine-y kind of feeling. And when I hear cocaine, it's like, oh, this is the guy I think of first. And you'll see some of his mannerisms. And if you've seen any movies about people on cocaine and you're familiar with those mannerisms, you may recognize some of them. Again, I could be wrong, but we'll take a look at that. All right, let's take a look at one or two
hang
of
on a
these
second.
images. What do we got here? What do you got?
DW is with us here in the comments and says this person read years ago that Trump was an FBI informant who helped Giuliani bring down the mob in New York City. I have heard things like that. I don't know if that's true, But it's interesting for sure. It definitely seems like there's been a decades-long war going on between Trump and the Trump camp and Al Walid. You know, they hate each other. And there's all this different stuff throughout the years. So what do we want to look at here? Because I don't want to run videos here on YouTube. We've got social engineers who are going to ding them, but we're 5 minutes
we got
away.
A whole bunch of, we got a whole bunch of stuff in that folder. So let's go to the first JPEG image.
In 5 minutes, people will be able to watch the in-depth, sponsor-exclusive show on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Now, I've got a whole big folder here of stuff. What would you like to see?
Let's just sort by image or type, file type, and then we'll just look at all the JPEGs in order.
Okay.
And then we'll just pop them open and see what we got here. So this kind of lays the groundwork. So yeah, so this is a good one. What's the title on this? If you zoom,
this is the Financial Tribune, and we've got Al Walid bin Talal hung upside down and beaten by U.S. mercenaries. Boy, I think
that's right.
Yeah,
he's been a bad boy. I mean, you know, that's a lot of corruption. How many trading stamps did he abscond with?
Yeah. So I guess they used Blackwater because Saudi guys would not be able to do this to a Saudi royal, right?
But
probably. They deny it.
Well, of course, you're paid to deny it. That's the whole idea. What do you think we say? Yeah, no, they treated us really good. The hummus was fabulous. What do you expect you're going to say? It was a fantastic place. The air conditioning is really impressive out there in Riyadh. You know, what am I going to tell you, Jason? You know, the food is fabulous. You know, everybody. You know, they drive us around in Mercedes. It's great. All right. So what's the next image we got in here? What do we got? Next one.
People are still very interested about the cocaine in the White House. And before we go to this image, I just want to say, I think this story is getting so much attention, John, because it's just easy for people to process in their mind. They know that cocaine is illegal. You find cocaine there and somebody's in trouble. It's not like a big complicated, Russia hacked, who did it, where's the emails kind of thing. It's just very simple for people to process.
All right. Well, the connection here is that you've got bin Salman, you've got Khashoggi, you've got Al Walid bin Talal, and Khashoggi. So there's two images here, 1 and 2. It says Khashoggi worked for Al Walid and Khashoggi worked for Al Walid too. And I think you opened number 2, so you don't have number 1 open yet. But the idea here is that
which one? Sorry,
I think there's 2 of them, right? One is 2, maybe the same.
This is
they
the
look
other
identical,
one.
actually. Yeah, they're identical. Forgive me. I'm a dope. So, all right. So the idea here is that Khashoggi and Al Walid bin Talal were running a TV station, right? So Al Walid owns it, and Al Walid bin Talal is also in business with Rupert Murdoch and Fox, and is a huge owner of Fox. So, oh boy, I start talking about the Las Vegas shooting. And Fox pulls Tucker Carlson out of Vegas and says, yeah, we don't want him really talking about that anymore.
Well, because he was talking about helicopters too, wasn't he?
He mentioned it, but actually that was like a false positive. That was a bunch of bugs. It was like moths, a bunch of bugs flying around the lights.
No,
you know how
he
the bugs
had
do
some
that?
security footage of a different helicopter landing in a parking lot or something like that, and that's when they told him, get the hell out of there.
And I'm telling you that footage of what he thought was a helicopter was actually just bugs flying around the camera.
Weird.
And you can tell if you speed it up. And if you speed it up at 10 times, you see the bugs come and the bugs go like a swarm. Wow. And you see the helicopters in the distance, but they're all Maverick. None of the bad guys are on film.
We got 30 seconds here, John, before we're going over to the sponsor segment.
All right, so let's give them a little teaser punchline of what you found that connects the Saudi royals with kind of a major cocaine haul. I mean, so this is a story that you dug up earlier today, where it turned out that another Saudi royal
Right.
got nabbed
Right.
with
This was crazy.
4,000 pounds of
So it
cocaine.
says a Saudi prince moved roughly 2 tons of cocaine from Colombia. This is 2004. 2 tons of cocaine from Colombia to an airport outside of Paris using his diplomatic status and a royal family 727 jet. So the thing that I have not yet done that I want to do is, and this wasn't Al Walid, this was Prince Nayef bin Fawaz Al Shalan. I mean, I don't know what the connections are between these people, but we've heard there are Saudi princes who have drug problems and things like that, and we know these guys have tons of money. I'm very fascinated with the use of 727s for stuff other than commercial air travel because it's an extremely unique aircraft, and it seems like, you know, international drug smugglers and crazy people like Jeffrey Epstein are super interested in this plane. The CIA is super interested in this plane. And now we've found a Saudi royal connection to cocaine smuggling, and that is just the beginning. With that, John, we got to switch over here to our sponsor exclusive segment. And for people who've been following this White House cocaine story, your mind is going to be blown by what we're going to be discussing here. So make sure you join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, where you can still read the Twitter coup for free, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You will not be disappointed with this sponsor exclusive segment. As usual, John and I are going to bring you a unique perspective on this story that nobody else has been talking about.